Hello and welcome to Pod Don't Lie with Sam and Stav. We are here post the fucking Last Dance, the final two eps. It feels
What a
emotional.
ride, man.
It's over, dude. It's over. I can't. Also, it's like, damn, that was 5 weeks. Like,
Jesus, that's the worst part. Is like it ends, and you're like, I guess I got to face my life again.
I guess, yeah.
That's all I had.
There's 2 more hours a week where I'm faced with my own horrible existence. Like, it's just
It's brutal. I loved it. I know you had mixed feelings.
I loved it. I love the time I spent with the documentary. I'm gonna rewatch it. Obviously, it was a really fucking nice. Like, I wasn't there for all of it. Like I said, that season is the first season that I'm even semi cognizant of basketball. Like, I'm 9 years old. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. I remember that series, but I just don't. And I remember those Bulls because they were so famous, and obviously Space Jam and all. Like, it was like a cultural like moment. But I don't even like. It was cool as somebody who just didn't know some of it, especially just like the history of it. I mean, I didn't know the specifics of that Pacers series that they talked about, and and just there was
that Pacers team was deep as hell. By the way, I mean, you got
sure.
Mullen. Who's
I know Mullen
older,
being on there fucking floored me. I was like, oh god.
I remember those, dude. Watching Reggie and Michael go head to head, it's almost like watching two of your ex-girlfriends. Like, as a Knicks fan, they're just people that hurt you. You know what I mean? They're just people you fucking hate.
I liked seeing Reggie take an L, man. I really enjoyed that.
But God, that shot he hit. I mean, I hated Reggie and Jordan. So seeing Reggie just push off Jordan and then I'm like, oh, he did that shit to us. And of course, Reggie, hate him all you want. The guy would not miss a big shot.
Yeah, no, honestly, and Reggie was the kind of guy who was never like a super duper star, like get you over the top, Jordan, LeBron, that level. But he was the kind of guy who could get hot, and he was the best player.
I don't know though, dude. I mean, I'm not saying he's LeBron, but he's a franchise player. I mean, they
but also
lost in the finals. They almost made it again. They're in the finals, if not for the Bulls.
Right. And who knows what happens with the Jazz and
so stuff. That's two finals. If not for the Bulls, they might win a chip.
True, that's true. And also at the tail end of his career, who knows the Malice at the Palace stuff? But
Reggie.
Well, in Game 7, the last 6 minutes of Game 7, he went scoreless. So it's like he was Mr. Clutch, but he also, in the biggest game of his life, did kind of choke, which was nice.
I can tell you,
as a Reggie hater to watch.
I'll tell you, sometimes he fucking crushed us.
Oh, yeah.
He hit so many big shots. It was so damn frustrating. But that Pacers team, I mean, you got Mark Jackson, you got Reggie, the Davis brothers. I fucking hated them. I hated the boys. Rick Smith was a great big. You know, I mean, he was 7'4".
Yeah, for sure. And it was and young Jalen also. He's on that fucking team, and
that team was dangerous, man. MJ,
and it was the only Game 7 in I mean, the Knicks took him to Game 7 once, but
but that pissed me off that Jordan was like, they came the closest other than the Pistons. I was like, fuck you, man. Don't act like my 90s Knicks didn't give you battles. I know
he did blow him out in Game 7, man. I hate to admit it, but
it's fucking bullshit.
But it was also fucked up that during an episode where the Knicks don't have to come up at all, it's all about the Pacers and the Jazz taking L's. Do you see the trivia question, which was which All-Star did Michael Jordan eliminate the most from the playoffs? They just had to throw straight at Ewing for no reason. The answer was Patrick Ewing, by the way.
I'm repping Ewing behind me, man. I'm not disrespecting, but damn, dude, those Pacers were tough. I got to give it up. And it's funny, all I remember like Brian Russell is just getting, like, you want to be that young guy who's like, I'm guarding Jordan. You're going to only be remembered by getting game winners just dropped on your face. Back-to-back finals. You're just getting.
It's also funny how Jordan was mad at that, like, clearly, like, fun little joke that Russell made. He's like, "Oh, come back! I gotta guard you." It's like he was flirty. It's like an old guy. It's like you punching an old guy for telling your girlfriend she looks beautiful. Like that's the level of like joking he was doing. It's like he's like, "Oh, he was on my list." It's like, come on, man. Like,
So I'm like, yeah, he's like Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison, just like crossing off names. He really is a psycho. I mean, Malone and Stockton too are just like, I mean, come on, dude. He's a kid. Just like give him a break.
But yeah, so the whole, and we're gonna recap obviously the last couple episodes here, and we're gonna talk about our feelings on the series overall. We also have a guest that's gonna come in, really a great writer, like one of my favorite writers. I just DM'd him cold on Twitter. We've never actually spoken, but he used to write for Deadspin. And now I think he's freelancing. He's been all over the place. I used to read him in SB Nation, like way back in the day. I realized some of the stuff I read because I was to research and just kind of freshen myself up. I looked at some of his stuff and I think I realized like, oh shit, I remember reading that like back in the day. So he's fucking great. David Roth is going to be here. In fact, I think he's in the fucking Zoom waiting room right now. So why don't we get him in here? He also has been writing the recaps for the Last Dance for Vulture. Yeah. That's what happened. I was fucking to research the episodes. I would always like, read stuff and take notes. And I just fucking realized he wrote them, and I had to fucking DM him and see if we can get him on the show. So we're thrilled to have him on, and let's welcome David Roth onto the show.
All right, let's do it.
So we got David Roth in the mix. Dude, thanks for doing the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, love your stuff, and I love just reading all your recaps for Vulture. They fucking rocked.
Thanks, man. I definitely overdid it on them, but I don't have a lot else going on right now. So it's kind of just like
it was really good. I was like, damn, this is good writing for every fucking recap. You know what I mean? Like, you really went in.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Like I said, I don't get to write about basketball because there's no basketball, so like, I'm taking it where I can get
it. yeah, for sure. And you were writing it Deadspin obviously before you guys got fucked, and maybe we talk about that a little later. But you're a great sports writer for years. So yeah, man, we just want to talk about Last Dance, recap it. We were just talking about episodes 9 and 10 a little bit. What did you think?
Talking about the Pacers, man, and how I kind of forgot how good that team was. As a Knicks fan, I mean, we kind of got the best of them. That was one of the few teams we got the best of them, the Heat. But that Pacers team was deep. That Jazz team. I mean, what do you remember about that Pacers team?
The Pacers team was annoying as hell. Like even by Pacers team standards, from what I recall. Yeah. Like I remember, I had the late '90s Bulls are less clear in my mind. So that I think I liked the back half of the series more because I didn't really remember those teams as much. I was at college. I wasn't watching basketball as hard as I was. The early '90s teams were like haunt me to this day. Like they were just like the Nets never had a chance against them. I saw Jordan a bunch of times, and it was like I went back and watched before you came on like what I think of as the best highlight the Nets had against the early Bulls.
Yeah.
And it was Chris Morris beating Jordan on a backdoor cut and dunking and breaking the backboard. And I was at that game.
Hell yeah, dude.
A friend of mine high-fived Ed Lover from Yo MTV Raps. It was like really kind of an early peak in my life. And then, but I watching the video again, the thing I'd forgotten. So they had to stop play because they needed to fix the backboard. So everybody's going to the sidelines and they go to commercial and the Nets were down like 11. Yeah. Like that was like to close the gap from 13 to 11. It was like the peak highlight of that. So the late 90s teams, I was like shocked at first of all, how good they like the Bulls were. Even like by the Last Dance season, they were kind of like old and like a little bit past it. They clearly hated each other in a lot of ways.
Running on fumes for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Rodman, there's no way you can fucking deal with Dennis Rodman. Like if he came back another year, it's like the motherfucker, like it blew my mind that he went to wrestle. And I did not remember that detail at all. I didn't know. I knew he wrestled. I remember the others, but like I didn't realize it was in the middle of the fucking finals.
Yeah, I forgot that as well.
Also, all the stuff he was doing at that point was like, if you dreamt it, it wouldn't be different. Like I have no way of like being able to draw that bright line between like, yeah, all right, so he went to like Detroit and whatever, hit the Undertaker with a folding chair or whatever. Sure, like that's like, is that really different than being in like whatever the movie he did with Van Damme and like Mickey Rourke and like just all the like weird shit that he was on at that point.
Totally.
Hey, don't knock Simon Says.
I mean, yes. Rodman as his film career, I guess, whatever. If I'm looking for stuff to pitch.
Yeah.
Stuff there.
Spent
a lot of time with his shirt off, as I recall. They tried to, whatever.
He knew that his body wasn't going to keep being that ripped as fucked up as he was getting. So he wanted to get as much mileage out of those pecs.
Yeah.
Before he started melting.
The thing that's going to stay with me maybe the most from this series is him partying in Vegas with like just a bunch of like kind of lumpy, like blogger looking guys that presumably worked for him.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. It's like making them sing a song before they do kamikaze shots. And I was like, this is actually like, if that is like the highest level of balling out of control, like actually, I don't even want anything to do with it. Like,
I know it is funny because I'm sure he was like really fun to party with, but it's like the hottest women you've ever seen, and then just like a bunch of weird like even Kim Jong-un is a hilarious. It fits the like fat schlub.
Yeah, that's like.
But he does only hang with like the best of the group, like MJ, Hogan, Kim Jong-un, like whatever group he's in.
Right. Alpha achievers.
He flocks to the alpha, exactly.
Yeah, surround yourself with people who are like you, so that you can draw from that energy.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing they say afterwards. What happens to that last dance team, and it shows that Rodman was just released. Other people were maybe traded or just not re-signed. Rodman was released, and I'm watching with my girlfriend Taylor, who says, "Isn't that disrespectful to do to a player that great?" And I'm like, he's hitting Diamond Dallas Page with a chair in the most important series.
Dude, I mean, honestly, when I saw that, I felt like a 85-year-old like white JV coach in an inner city. I was just like, oh my God, how did he disrespected the game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I got my most Republican basketball fan in me jumped out when he when he went to. I was like, that's too much for me.
Like the Bill Simmons gland activates in your brain, and suddenly just sweating bullets watching it. It's not what you want at all.
No, dude. I was like, I couldn't believe it. It's insane what he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, I mean, you were in college and everything, but yeah, for me, the whole series was kind of like a little refresher because this was my first entry into like this team is the first one I really remember, you know, just because. So it was cool to just kind of get, just refreshed every step of the way. And I think for me, it worked more as that. It's just almost like a fun little straight history of what kind of happened, and to remember and just to learn new like details that I just didn't know, as opposed to offering any kind of like crazy insight into everything.
I think so for me, I started liking it a lot more once I realized that it wasn't going to be like important or like any of the ways that, because you know, anything that's like 10 episodes long, and like ESPN only knows one way to promote shit. So that, you know, the idea that this is like finally like a journey deep within Michael Jordan's mind, and like there's nothing much like in there. It's just like, it's not, you know, a knock on him or whatever. That's just like the type of person that he is.
Right.
So like the more basketball is in the episodes, the better they are. Like, and so like 9 and 10 were just like half game footage.
Right.
And they didn't cut it up. Like we talked earlier about like how much we love like the highlight reel shit in the beginning of it. And that was all obviously like really great, but just, I liked the bit in from the flu game, which I think was episode 10.
I think it was 10,
but, but where they actually just like showed how shitty Jordan looked out there, like how fucked his body language was. Like it was, I remember watching that and just being like, this is, you know, like crazy that he was even out there. Right. But like, instead of like cutting it up and having like Michael Wilbon be like, he had food poisoning actually from the pizza. And then like 3 other guys saying the same thing. He just like showed you what was happening, and it worked really well.
You're absolutely right.
It's brutal. And the thing about Jordan saying he never asked his teammates to do anything he himself wouldn't do, you see how fucking frail and weak he looked. And then you see Pippen, you know, and Pippen had the migraine game. Pippen had game, 6 against the Jazz, and you could see him barely standing, and you could see part of Jordan like, you better fucking play.
Yeah. That was part of it that was so, again, like Steph said, there's a lot of stuff in here that's like not necessarily new, like knowing that his teammates were afraid of him and like kind of hated him, knowing that like whatever, like Judd Buechler is gonna wake up like in a cold sweat like 2 out of every 3 nights for the rest of his life. Like that was known in like the 90s. But seeing like how like the force that he exerted on everybody was like kind of wild to observe, especially at the end where like all of them are just like dragging ass.
Oh, totally.
And that Jazz team was real good too. I mean, it was just, they didn't have Michael Jordan on it.
Right. I'm sorry. Once you said Judd Buechler, I started thinking, like, do you think any Bulls like developed a kind of like BDSM like thing where their wives had to put on a Jordan jersey and peg them? And that was the only way. That's the only way Judd Buechler can come from now on, is if his wife puts on Michael Jordan cologne and fucks him in the ass.
Somebody with Jordan 3s has to step on his nuts and question his work ethic.
Yeah.
It's tough, but I'm not here to shame any of these guys. Whatever gets
absolutely.
Dennis Hobson off is
Yeah.
totally fine for me.
You're right, though. That Jazz team was stacked, and it was kind of their time. I mean, they're in
Yeah.
finals back-to-back years. Malone was so good. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you something else. I mean, for someone who impregnated a 13-year-old, he had great sportsmanship coming on the team bus and saying what
goes
up
to
to
show.
Michael.
You never know somebody. They're never as bad as their worst moment, which of course is a crime. It's a very serious crime.
He's a bad
the man
human
shook
being.
hands. And I'll tell you something else. He wouldn't kneel for the flag. I'll tell you that much.
It's crazy to also, something that jumped out to me is to see a 10-part documentary about someone who's not a murderer. Like, when's the last time you saw a documentary that long about something like that's how much there is on Jordan. That's interesting. And I would have watched 10 more hours.
Although honestly, the vibe is not that different than if it was about a really prolific murderer. Like if it was you'd have to change some of the dialogues, and like obviously the highlight reels would require some significant editing. But a lot of like the vibe of it, of him just like coming back to him and being like, yeah, I was mad about that. Like, when I saw like Damon Stoudemire like having a nice time with his mom, like at McCormick and Schmick's. Yeah, I kicked him down a fucking flight of stairs 3 years later. Like that was, but it's just like that's how he is.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
The mentality is not that different.
But you're so right, dude. Then that I did enjoy that aspect of these two episodes. That I almost was like, it felt almost like watching a game the way they cut it together, because they just played the game footage. And I remember being like, oh, I know what's going to happen, but I'm like, oh, are the Pacers going to win? You know what I mean? Like watching episode 9, because it was really well edited. And you're right. When they actually just fucking show shit and don't try and like, cram it into a narrative that is like, almost obvious, it was a much more enjoyable sort of basketball viewing experience.
Dude, I wanted to see more of Lorenz Tate talking about the Jordan years. That's why I tune in.
That was like the thing that that all the my former coworkers like talking in Slack about. It was just like how the assignments of like breaking down a moment just seemed to be distributed at random. So like the guy from USC that's like the professor of culture, like diagramming an inbounds play. Like you got other guys that can do that. You don't need to have like a PhD be like, well, Pete Myers was a good passer. Like fair point.
Yeah. No,
I hated Pete Myers because he had a great game against the Knicks. But I'll tell you what I don't remember. I forget how close Jordan came to banking in that shot at the end.
Me too. Yeah.
On a double pump from 3. I mean, that's how scary. Jordan and Reggie were the scariest clutch players of my lifetime.
Reggie was for sure. Reggie and Paul Pierce killed the Nets like nobody else. I mean, like Jordan obviously did, but it was like it didn't matter to him. Yeah. Like the Nets teams that I cared about, like they like lost to the Cavs before the Cavs lost to the Bulls. Like it was just like they were effectively in like a different NBA.
Were you a big Drazen Petrovic head?
Huge Drazen Petrovic head. Yes.
Horrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. That broke my heart. And it was, I mean, also that team, they weren't like really that close to being good, but they were at least like saucy, and like Petrovic was kind of just had that like, he was like real intense and angry looking all the time.
Oh,
like when you're in like 8th grade or whatever, like that was basically how I felt all the time. So he showed me it was okay to be weird.
Yeah, Petrovic had a real Linkin Park, listening to Linkin Park in your stepmom's minivan vibe. Just like,
oh, dude, when they're going through like the one guy who thought he could like step to Team USA, every other team was like scared, and he was like the one guy who was like, we can beat them, and you're like, you're fucking insane.
Like
Croatia,
probably
dude.
wrong, but like hats off. Like it was definitely admirable.
But Petrovic really was I mean, we just went back, like you see what his 3-point percentage was like back, even he's still one of the leaders ever in 3-point percentage in an NBA that did not shoot for, I mean, I don't remember if he was around when they moved the line in, maybe that's part of it, but it was also, he was just like his game, maybe that team would have been something, but having Petrovic was like, you motherfuckers were in for at least a run at something. He was that good. He was that fucking good.
If they'd used him right, that's the thing. I think you're right about for sure, like how good he was and the way that he was good. But there's so many guys from that era that I think like just because of the way that basketball thinking was, like if you watch, my favorite example of it is Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, or if you watch, he has like a 50-point game and he's taking like Steph Curry shots, like contested threes, like, and whatever, they're going in, so nobody's mad. But like most of what his job was like dribble the ball up the court, like pass it to Antonio McDyess, and then just like wait for something else to happen.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's a waste, like Petrovic spent a lot of time with the ball in his hands relative to like other, because he was an off guard, like wing type dude, but they didn't use him super creatively. I would have liked to have had another couple of years to see him.
For sure. Well,
and the Nets whiffed on a couple
Daly?
picks. I mean, Coleman and Kenny Anderson, I thought should have had better NBA careers.
Yeah, they should have. Chuck Daly always said that Coleman would have been in the Hall of Fame if he liked basketball. And I think that's like, fair enough. As somebody that also resents having to work anytime I have to do it, like I can for sure like feel him on that. Yeah. But you could tell, like I remember like going to those games, like that was like the Nets would win like one game in the playoffs every 2 years or whatever. But Coleman, like when he was motivated, could do all kinds of, again, like contemporary things. Like
that's what Barkley said too.
Yeah.
Barkley said something similar where he was like, thank God he fucking didn't like basketball. I don't remember what the quote was, but he said he was like his biggest competition was fucking, it was just crazy to think about. And then he pops up on the Sixers like with 6'10". Iverson at the end, right?
Yep. He's Andrew Bynum if he never met Kobe. That's who he is, Derek Coleman was like 6'9" and Jack. I mean, players were scared of him because he had a fucking temper and he was tough.
I remember a commercial that he had for like one of the real like D line like sneaker things. It was like British Knights, but like whatever.
I wore
like,
British Knights in middle school.
Yeah, so maybe because you were inspired by Derek Coleman's ad, which is like really like fucked up animation. And they didn't talk about how good he was in the ad. He was like, "You get 6 fouls a game, make them count." I remember that was like the tagline. Which is like, I guess if that sells sneakers, that works. But, yeah.
Well, I found out later that I think Crips wore British Knights because of the BK.
Oh yeah,
like blood killer. So maybe they were just like, maybe they just went the whole. They should have just like went a whole other level and just been like, on you only got 3 strikes, make them count. You know what I mean? Strikes 1 and 2, baby.
You know what I remember about the Nets is how much they overpaid Kendall Gill in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then all I remember was like being like, thank God someone else overpaid him, but the Knicks. And he fucking, I remember seeing his place on Cribs, and he had like a Muay Thai studio and a fucking steam room in his mansion. I was like, that's the fucking Nets front office.
I don't even like either of these things. It's just like at some point, I remember he like that team. So that was the team that the Bulls beat in 97, 98 was like the team that they built around him. And I went back.
Van Horn, right? He was on
Van
the team.
Horn, Sam Cassell was on that team. They had some good players, but Cassell was hurt for the playoffs. So the point guard was like,
but he was a clutch player.
Super good. And he was in his prime. He was like 27 or 28. Yeah. It's weird too. Cause like that, before they would get good, they would trade Cassell, get Marbury, that would fail. And then they would get Jason Kidd. So they were like, a lot of the core of what would be the actual like finals teams on the Nets was there in 97, 98.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But like they didn't really know what to do with it. Kittles was there. Van Horn was around for the beginning of that.
Yeah.
But the issue with those teams always, and I went back and looked them up on like Basketball Reference and was kind of pleased that I remembered it. But like, I think it was a bad training staff. So people are always hurt. But then also like, it was just like anybody that had played in the NBA before was allowed to play 10 games with the Nets. Like it was just like, it's like Xavier McDaniel when he was like 41, George Murison was on that team. Like anybody that you like sort of remember playing, like definitely had a game where they got dunked on.
Yeah.
Like by Robert Pack. Yeah.
Murison had a great agent. He was like, can he act? No, doesn't matter. Yep. Billy Crystal, my giant, book it.
The story was always that wrecked his career too, because like for the movie, they were like, it would make more sense for the character to not wear shoes. And George Murison was like, okay. And then because he's 7'6", like his arches just instantly collapsed and he could never run again. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining that, but that was the story as I heard it.
That's so fucking good. Yeah. Also, the coaching was weird, right? Wasn't Calipari?
Cal was the coach in 97, 98. And
Calipari, it was just like a real weird Chuck Daly, like at the end.
Yeah, if you don't mind me clicking it up, I would like to look at that roster.
Byron Scott is Byron Scott the worst coach to take a team to the finals?
I absolutely yes, as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
he's got to be, right?
It really brings home like how remarkable it is that they ever succeed. Like the whole rest of his career really makes you appreciate Jason Kidd that much more.
Jason Kidd's the on-court coach. He was a fucking. I can't believe they got him for Marbury, and Marbury was incredible at the Nets.
Yeah.
But but kid's a winner, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marbury, I remember him trying to be like a leader on those really terrible Nets teams and stuff, like him like complimenting Evan Eschmeyer for like practicing hard or whatever. And it was just like so clearly not happening.
Yeah.
And
if only his dumbass could have just stayed in fucking Minnesota. That's the real what if there.
But dude, Marbury was throwing down alley-oops back then. I mean, he was he was a freak of nature. His handles were like, were like Kyrie's. He was the best ball handler in the league.
For sure.
It was him and Stevie Franchise.
Yeah. And the athleticism was so like
fucked up the night before.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why they struggled.
That was like, I mean, it all makes sense. That was basically like Haley's one real NBA skill was like he could either get Rodman fucked up or keep Rodman from getting fucked up. Like he could really like catch or like run really well, but somehow he had like mind control powers over Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, fuck, man. Rodman going to NW, like in terms of episode highlights for me, that fucking ruled. Like him, I completely forgot about that. Hulk Hogan literally making a joke about it on TV. Like, hey man, here's a reason to miss practice. He comes back and they're just like, they call him the Rodzilla. Like they're just joking about it because they're just like, it's the ultimate like a dysfunctional relationship that you're stuck with. It's just like, whatever, man. It's the finals.
Especially at that point, like they're so far along. That's the part of it that, and I knew about the thing where Jordan gave the interview about his gambling, like the day of an NBA Finals game. Because I had written something about that weird book that his golf buddy wrote about him like years ago.
Oh yeah.
But like all of this shit happening like during extremely important moments of the season was definitely something I'd forgotten. Crazy. If I ever knew about the NWO shit, I forgot it.
Yeah.
And
I remember they did it afterwards with Karl Malone. I remember because later on Karl Malone came out and they like both, but like I completely blacked that out. And also it's like, just that fucking rules. And then he comes back and he's awesome the next game. And then it's just like, I don't want to hear anything about Draymond. Draymond could never do this.
Yeah, he also he hit the Degeneration X like crotch chop after winning Game 6 of the NBA Finals.
I forgot that.
Like if I ever knew it, like I
was a kid. I didn't know what suck it meant when I did that shit.
Some grown up stuff.
Did you hear that Enes Kanter got a pro wrestling offer for when his NBA career ends? Which he's going to be awesome in pro wrestling.
Like honestly, he's got like all the skills that you need in pro, which is like he loves to talk. He has like kind of an unplaceable accent, large facial features. Like the rest of it you can teach. Like
and he's corny too.
Yes,
he's corny in the way that's perfect for wrestling.
Yeah,
like
he's like
in
exhausting.
the NBA, people are like, "Shut the fuck up, Ennis." But like at wrestling, they're like, "That's great, dude."
But he's corny, but he's still funny. That's what's kind of great about him. He's like, he's corny the way like Shaq is, where you're like, all right, but it was still pretty funny, you know?
Like just kind of like an annoying large kid. Like if you've ever like played basketball, there's usually like somebody on the team that is sort of like that. I know Michael Beasley was like the most powerful example of that.
For sure.
Where like whether they're good or bad, they're just like they're constantly gonna play some sort of like weird prank on you that doesn't make sense. And you're like, thanks, man.
Just a positive version of Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is the absolute worst version of that.
Yes, that is dark Ennis.
Other stuff from these episodes that I think we should talk about is like the flu game, which was incredible, obviously, but it's like there's so much conspiracy theory around that where so many people are just like he was hungover, which I don't understand. Apparently Jalen Rose said that, but I couldn't find evidence of that.
You're not hungover like that.
Yeah.
You mean you got like alcohol poisoning or something?
I don't know. To me, that seems like far-fetched.
It's weird because the fake, like the poison pizza seems real far-fetched too. But like at that point in his career as an adult, like Michael Jordan was probably about as good at getting wasted as he was at playing basketball. So the idea that he would be so hungover that at like late afternoon the next day he wouldn't be able to play basketball that
never made sense to me either. But also the poison pizza, I've seen Grover tell that story exactly the same way. It seems like he was coached to say it that way. All these details, and also this proves to me that Jordan had no fat friends in his entourage, because even if he was like, nobody gets a slice of pizza, one of his fat friends would have snuck a slice somehow and also gotten food poisoning.
What does that mean? Do you think they put like Visine drops on the pizzas? Because that's what I heard bartenders do to fuck with someone's drink if someone's being an asshole.
Really?
Yeah, you put a little Visine in there and it makes you sick.
Yeah, hilarious. I can't imagine what else it would mean. I don't know what kind of like poisons are available in Salt Lake City. It's like they have to sell them at like half the usual strength because they're like Mormon bylaws.
Yeah, but what kind of Mormon poisons are out there? That's what we really.
Yeah, that's
what kind of shit does Romney know about?
There should be bonus episodes just dealing. Yeah. I like the idea. Also, it's a bunch of like times this happens in the series where like Jordan is telling a story like pretty straight. It's clear that he knows what it is, and then like the more details you get, the more perverted it is. And like in that case, like him ordering a pizza, there's like 5 people in the room just sitting there watching him eat an entire pizza.
Yeah.
It's like the more you think about it, the weirder that is. Like his mom is one of them. His personal trainer's another guy, and they're all just like, "You like it? Is it good?"
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Almost done."
Yeah, it's crazy that why wouldn't anybody else have the pizza? That's crazy to me. And also, if it's food poisoning, he didn't have to shit once. He didn't have to go. He didn't leave. He just stayed there the whole time.
That's how powerful his
Steve
dedication
Kerr,
was.
Yeah, that's true. He's doing kegels the whole day to get his asshole tight enough to stop it. Kerr on a podcast I think Simmons' podcast years ago said that it was elevation like poisoning or something because they had to go. But I don't know. It seems
I've gotten sick I've definitely gotten fucked up from the elevation, and you just get dehydrated there too. So if you're not drinking a ton of extra water, you're not used to that. So it might have been
like a whole mix of maybe he's a little drunk and the pizza's a little fucked up and he has a little like food But yeah, he did. And then also Sam Smith, who wrote the Jordan rules and like, obviously didn't fuck with Jordan, didn't like him anyway because of that. He said that sometimes he's quoted as like saying he doesn't know if it was real at all. That he thinks it might have been Jordan trying to get an edge, which he is the kind of psychopath that would fake a food poisoning.
Yeah. Did you see Jerry Sloan at the end was like, I didn't know he had. I'm like, well, how fucking shitty a coach are you that you can't notice? Yeah. This guy can barely stand.
Yeah, like he was sweating at levels like an entire NBA team's worth of sweating was happening just in the greater like upper head region.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sloan did that twice in the I think it was episode 10. He was like, we had 59 points. It's like, you don't know how many points you have?
Yeah.
Sloan said shit where I was like, are you stupid?
That's another wild thing where I was like, God damn, I didn't realize they blew him out. That's the record for most points in the shot or least points in the shot clock era. That's insane that it happened
in a fucking NBA Finals game by like a 62-win team.
And they had John Stockton.
Yeah.
They had a guy who can get anyone a good look.
Yeah, it is incredible just the idea of the entire team shitting the bed in the same game, and then just like coming back and playing great the rest of the series. Like when you look at the rest of the scores, they weren't getting blown out. They weren't really like dominated, except for the one game they lost by like 46 points.
Yeah.
Where do you rank Stockton as top point guards ever?
I mean, that I saw in my life. It's another one of those things where I'm probably so biased because I didn't like him. Like his whole vibe was not for me. And
the same thing for me, but it's when you look at his numbers, it's like, damn, assist and steal leader and like just the longevity and just it's insane. It's
super efficient. And probably again another guy that would have been better if teams had played at a different pace. Like to see the scores in those NBA Finals games, the idea that he was averaging double-digit assists and his team was scoring like 30 field goals per game, basically. It's like bizarre. Yeah.
That is crazy. You're right. That would be interesting. I'm sure some fucking nerds do that where they're like, as a percentage of his team's points, what are his assists? And his are probably compared to like a James Harden 11 assist game where they're scoring 140 points.
Yeah, I mean, there's like twice as many possessions in games now. So
that's
like,
really interesting.
That's a good point. So he's the assist lead, and no one's going to break his assist record. Also crazy to remember that Mark Jackson is like 3 or 4 in assists.
Yeah. It is funny to see how good he was and like how annoying he is now.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, you totally forget because he was like a shitty coach and he's so annoying on the broadcast. And you're like, damn, he was so good.
Yeah.
Was he a shitty coach?
I think he was.
Oh, the eternal question.
think he was
I don't
fine.
know. He was a coach. He was definitely he was there at the wrong time,
I think he's like the guy that gets you halfway there. But like, if he had stayed as the coach of that team, I don't think that they necessarily would have won an NBA Finals. Like, and I don't know if that's. I mean, they were so good instantly after he left that like that might be bullshit. But my instinct was just that like he had them playing really slow. He had them playing a really weird sort of style, and so like there was not going to be that like Steph wasn't necessarily going to turn into Steph if he had to play in Jackson's offense, let alone, in that locker room, which was like, again, just like psycho shit. Like the story about him turning the whole team against Festus Ezeli for some reason?
No, I don't know this.
He had apparently like, that was something that he decided would motivate the team. Was also like Festus Ezeli like is the funniest possible. He's like, the third center on your team, the guy that plays when David Lee is tired.
Yeah.
Right. Well, he thinks that you guys actually suck. And he told me that. Wow. And he's right over there, by the way, like in the same locker room as us.
Oh my God.
And it was apparently like Ezeli cried and the team was just kind of like, no, I don't think that's true, coach. Like,
chill.
It's like, it sounds really wrong.
Who was the two guard in their team who they visited in the hospital? He was out for the whole season. You know what I'm talking about?
Wait, for the
Warriors?
Yeah. He had a season-ending injury. He never was really the same after that. But even prior to that, Jackson was playing.
Monte?
It wasn't Monte. No, it wasn't. I'll look it up. But
I think with Jackson, it's just like you were talking about like this is related to Steven Jackson, Sam?
No, not Steven Jackson.
Jackson.
It was a younger guy, but even prior to that, I was saying that Mark Jackson was playing Klay Thompson, even as a rookie, good minutes. He saw it early on, which I don't think everyone did.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, there's definitely the possibility that they would have taken and I think they probably would have taken a leap with him there, but Kerr's system was like, I mean, was it the first year Kerr was there, or like the second year where they did something like quadruple the amount of passes they did?
Yeah, that's exactly what. I mean, they passed basically less than any team in the NBA under Jackson, and then within 2 years they passed
Brandon Rush
much more.
Oh right,
Brandon Rush. Yeah.
He was a small forward technically. I thought him as a two guard, but he was out like the whole year, and they were like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But Klay even early on, Klay had some, and I remember Steph's coming out party was at the Garden. That was like he got snubbed from the All-Star team. And he's like, I'll drop 55 or 53 or whatever on the Knicks.
I think I know the game you're talking about. He did the Dougie for the first time or some shit. Like he did some like weird dance.
Just come to the Garden to get your fucking confidence up if you're like right there.
Yeah.
That's
where
50
happens. Points, like hit the nene in front of everybody, and they're all just like, no.
I think that was before Steph was Steph, and I remember he was just like pulling up and hitting insane threes. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
The whole early part of his career is going to look so weird when people look back. Like anybody that remembers what his peak was when he was like backing up AC Law or whatever. Just like
literally Monte Ellis. People were like, some people thought Monte should play instead of Steph.
Oh yeah,
people were like pissed.
That's one of those things where you like instantly get to feel stupid and sentimental. I was mad when the Nets traded Marbury for Jason Kidd. I was like, Kidd can't even dunk. Are you fucking serious? Which is, whatever. I don't stand by it, but like I can understand my process.
Of course,
Kidd was not as flashy a player, but no. I mean, Kidd was fucking. I mean, he's the reason they're in the finals every year.
Oh yeah. I hadn't really seen him much, honestly. Like it was just that Marbury was cool and Kidd was
cool. He was so cool when you're a kid. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and Kidd had that like the Mark Jackson body type where you just like for a point guard it just doesn't look like anything fun's gonna happen from like a perfectly rectangular guy. But wrong.
That Mavs team with Kidd is like one of the all-time like fuck. What a like cool team.
It's the Expendables, dude. It's like one last job in terms of a basketball team. It's like it's crazy, and it was cool.
Marion, Deshaun Stevenson was a good 3-and-D guy. You got Tyson, Terry, JJ Barea just like exploded off the bench.
It's like the best version of like the dumb Nets roster I was looking at before, where it's like people are like not gonna believe that Brian Cardinal was on that team, but like basically anyone. Rafe LaFrentz was on like one of those really good Mavs teams. Like it was just anybody that had played got to get a ring.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think Wasn't Rod? I mean, Rodman was obviously way before this, but Rodman was on the Mavericks, and I think he tried to get number 69, but
Yeah,
they
that sounds
they
like him.
vetoed it. But
Yep.
the league vetoed it.
So you can't wear 69?
Rodman couldn't, at least.
Imagine having to like bring that memo to David Stern.
Yeah.
Like he's just like had lunch with like the premier of China or something like that. It's like, this is urgent business.
Stern's just
sir.
like, no, get this away from me.
Yeah.
This is not.
I don't think so, Dennis.
A prominent power forward whose name I won't tell you is requested to wear number 420.
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman, goddamn, he was. It's crazy to look back, but like you look at they're posting all this stuff on Bleacher Report now of like the Warriors versus the Bulls and like each matchup and how interesting they would have been. But like, man, I really think Rodman would have fucked Draymond shit up.
Oh yeah,
I really do.
So did you watch? There was a video of him playing defense against like, it was mostly Piston shit. So he was playing defense against like young Shaq and Kareem, and like it was honestly he was like beyond being like the best defensive player I've seen. Like he like walled up, like Shaq would do that thing where he'd like hit him with his butt, and usually it just like people would vaporize, or like Chris they would go flying into like the middle tier of the field.
Shit.
Yeah. And Rodman, who weighed like 100 pounds less than Shaq, just like is immovable. Like I have no idea what kind of like flexibility and like weird ass strength he must have had. But I recommend it so much, man. It's just like 5 minutes of him locking down the best players of his era, all of them bigger than him.
Rodman's training is in like an S&M bar. Someone just like spanking him with a paddle. It's like,
and that's all tax deductible because that's for work.
Nah, he fucking rocks, man. I mean, name the greatest players of the whole span that he was there, and he locked up everything. Magic, Jordan, Pippen, Shaq.
That was probably my favorite.
It's crazy.
Of the highlight reels in The Last Dance was the one that they did for him, because it's like he doesn't actually do anything like cool in it. Like he doesn't dunk or anything like that. Like half of it is just him like contesting rebounds and tipping it to himself.
The loose balls are the coolest part. Diving for the balls.
Yeah, like just a crazy person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a thing today. I think I forgot which Instagram account it was. It was Bleacher or ESPN or something. But they were like, which is the next 10-part series you want to see? And one of them was Shaq and Kobe. And I was like, ooh, that 96 to 2004 Lakers, that would be a fun 10-parter.
Yeah. I mean, it's also probably would be better without Kobe in it. Like in the same way that like Jordan is kind of the worst part of The Last Dance, like talking Jordan is.
Yeah.
Right.
That like, I don't know if Shaq's got like,
I'll say this about Kobe that I don't think is true of Jordan. I think Kobe has proven that he was doing a Jordan impression his entire career.
Absolutely.
And I think his post career shows that he's a different guy. I think he would have been much more interesting than Jordan, introspectively. Like clearly he's a different person that he was projecting all these years. Like whereas Jordan was in the opposite, whereas he's projecting to be this like, just fucking charming, and I'm sure he is charming obviously in some ways, but like you're just like the spokesperson, like smiling all the time, and obviously he's like this like killer, like country, like North Carolina killer that's just like smoking cigars, whereas Kobe
5 a day, they say 5 cigars a day.
Crazy.
That's the minimum recommended.
That's more than Che Guevara. He's fucking it's insane.
Yeah, like that's definitely a good point there though, because like Jordan, like that was like I think what got me into like sort of the back half of the series. Like once you accept that it's just like it's Jordan's vision of Jordan's life, right. So it's gonna be crazy and like super narrow and all these like weird binaries of being like I didn't like Sean Kemp's haircut, so like I knew I had to humiliate him. Like ditto for like and but just like over and over again, it gets repetitive because it's not like Jordan doesn't really have very much to say about it.
Totally.
But it's like there's like a whole other sort of way of watching it that emerges there where it's like this weird comedy about it's like Looney Tunes shit where it's just like a new weird guy tries to like duck hunt him every episode and then he just like tricks them into running into a mountain.
Well, and there's flashes of things that I found fascinating that we'll never learn about. I mean, his relationship with the security guard that comes up in the last couple episodes where it's like, wait a second, he's like, he was a father for you, replaced your dad. On some level, it's like he did just replace his dad emotionally and it's like, was he that kind of, was like, and am I being cynical and I'm reading too much into this where it's like, he just needed somebody there to fulfill that role in his life because that's how everything rolled with him. Like, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
He treated his dad like a dead cat. He's like, just
Yeah,
get another one.
Yeah. I'm gonna get one that looks sort of like him.
You know what was fucked up to me is they were like he's dead, obviously, because the wife is talking, but then they're like, he died from lung cancer. I'm like, oh, you mean he was probably on a bus with you all the time? You have 47 cigars a week.
Incredible. Good, Michael.
He was killed for a gambling debt.
Yeah, that was the whole like Jordan's inner life. Obviously, like maybe we saw it, but like the circle of friends stuff, I agree was like fascinating. The guy that got interviewed a lot in the end, like George Kohler, who's identified as like
best friend / personal
assistant, which is an extremely cursed title to have under your name under any circumstances. Obviously, like one of my former coworkers, Dan McQuaid, like looked him up, and like the way that they met was like Kohler was his like a limo driver that picked him up when he flew into Chicago, and then they just
I think I know.
Jordan
about this.
kept calling him.
Not only was he was in his limo. The Bulls were such a bullshit organization. They did not send a limo to pick up their number one pick, and Kohler was just there. He was like at the airport as a limo driver. He's like, "Where you need to go? I'll take you." And they just hit it off, and they just kind of fucking the same thing with the guy with the mullet, the curly mullet.
Oh yeah,
Wozniak. It's like he just kind of like he apparently they met because Jordan liked him because Wozniak fucking crashed Jordan's car, broke the windshield, and they for whatever reason threw and offered to pay for it, and because of that, Jordan and him became boys after that, and it's just like who his friends were is so fascinating, and what Jordan does to like chill is fascinating, and from all we see, it's mostly just boys will be boys type shit. Like it's mostly, I mean, I don't mean rape. I'm sorry. That's taken. I mean just like, like gambling.
We mean Michael Jordan, not Derrick Rose.
But yeah, there is a lot of that.
Wrong Bulls MVP. I'm sorry.
The Wright Thompson wrote a story about him in 2013 that like kind of caught up with him when he was turning 50.
Yes.
And it had a little bit more of what like Jordan actually does to like relax and have fun, and it's all equally sicko shit to what you're talking about. Like him calling like Cliff Levingston at like 1:45 in the morning, wasted, and be like, "Remember when I busted your ass in practice?" And Cliff Levingston's like, "Who is this?" Like, you know, it's just like, but that's like what he was. That's what he liked.
And that is so fucking. That is so consistent with it. What an awful drunk he is. He's just like some people like start talking. He calls people he's beaten. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, that's like the whatever the equivalent of like a drunk text for him is like whatever looking up Craig Elo.
Yeah, just sending him a vine of him hitting the shot and be like, "Remember this, Craig?"
Hey Isaiah, remember that time we left you off the dream team? He's like, "Yes, I've thought about it for 30 years now. Thanks."
You have anything to add about that? Because I'm having dinner with my family right now.
Yeah, who all love me. And who, if I ever had a 10-part documentary, would be in it longer than 4 seconds each.
That was
insane.
That was the biggest laugh of the whole thing to me. Was like I just had assumed that they would leave them out. Like you get that close to it, like it became clear at some point they were never going to mention that Jerry Krause died. For instance, that was just a filmmaking choice that they made. So like every episode, there's 5 minutes of people being like, "You have no idea how fucked up this guy looked." Like just awful. And then like, but you know, you wonder why he's not answering for himself. But then bringing in the kids with like, 20 minutes left in a 9.5-hour series, like solid fucking choice.
Insane, dude. I mean, in many ways, I'm much more interested in the, and I think I should go read. I think my roommate recommended me, or my old roommate recommended that piece, and I'm so much more fascinated about the post Last Dance Jordan, because that's so much more interesting than the Conqueror. It's like Alexander wept. I want that. I want Jordan wept. There was no more to conquer, You know
what's they leave it out, and I understand why they leave it out, because it's like beyond the fact that it's not very flattering. It doesn't fit with like the scope of what they're doing. But I read through a lot of the book about his comeback with the Wizards. Like there's like a whole, you can get a bunch of it is like excerpt on the Washington Post, but the book itself is called When Nothing Else Matters. And it's like just fucking devastating, like as bad as the Jordan rules in terms of revealing what a difficult guy he was, but also like the team sucked. Like there was nothing redeeming. Like he bullied Rip Hamilton, and then the team won 27 games and then he like retired. But it's really like, and that like I think kind of put in perspective too, like a lot of the stuff that is in some of those, like I don't remember which episodes it was, the ones where they talked about what a dick and like kind of bully he was. That like When Nothing Else Matters has like the sort of the unedited version of that, which is him like, the version they show you in the series is like him calling Scaparella hoe 4 times. And like, that's, true enough.
Which,
like,
by the way, a hilarious part of this, one of my favorite parts of these last two was when Ahmad Rashad is like, some can and some can't. And he's like, you cannot speak to Scott Burrell.
Yeah.
You're gonna scare the shit out of Scotty Burrell.
Yeah.
He was like,
it's also incredible that that's like minutes before what's possibly the last game of his life. And it's like, what's on your mind? And he's like, what a fucking bitch Scott Burrell is, actually.
He will not play because it's game 7 and he's my backup, but don't talk to him.
Yeah.
I also love that Jordan is like, look, Scott Burrell is a very nice person. I'm like, then why do you call him a hoe 40 times?
Yeah, right.
Like, why do you keep calling this kid who worships you a hoe?
Yeah. It's so good to see Jordan try to like spin it to where he's like, I thought it was important to toughen him up. And it's like, they waived Scott Burrell like 15 minutes after the finals ended.
Yeah.
Like that guy was
your
just
backup.
He
was your backup.
Like 10 minutes a game. Like, is it really that important for you to like make sure that he has a shitty rest of his life?
Dude, I'll tell you too. I remember Steve Kerr, like, because I was always rooting against those Bulls teams. I remember Steve Kerr just hitting so many big shots.
Yep. Yeah, he
was a
much
great
better
shooter.
player than I think. Just in general, like probably another dude that maybe would have like he wasn't a great athlete or anything like that, but just like that was what 3-point shooters were at the time. Was just like a white dude with a haircut.
Right.
That played like 15 minutes a game and took only those shots.
Only if at the end when you're trailing, it's like, maybe this is what we should do the whole time. If this is what we're doing to get back into a game.
Right. We got to like try something. Put like Tim Legler in and see if that works.
Yeah.
But
everyone had one of those, like in case of down 7, break out this white guy.
You would only ever see them at like the All-Star game. You'd be like, wow, John Sundvold is really good at hitting threes. But like,
remember Jason Capono?
Yeah,
oh, yeah, of course.
Capono he had like a real classic 90s Cali aesthetic as well.
Absolutely.
Which is, I went to school out there, so like something about that combination of like it kind of looks like a Lego hair that you just snap on, where it's like sideburns, everything's real crisp, one piece.
He looked like the lead in like a 90s. He looked like Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yes, I was going to say like strong Freddie Prinze Jr. scouting.
He also got paid. He got like 24 mil and it got released immediately. Did he just get 24 mil to not play? It was crazy.
I think he won a title for the Heat and stuff like that. Like he had like probably
he was
a pretty good life.
He was on that team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you saying so? Sorry, dude. Were you saying something about those Jordan or the Wizards book? Where
the book. So Burrell, anyway, that like what it shows, because he's like all the things that you'd think he would be saying that they wouldn't want to put in the series, which is like mostly the F slur,
right?
Which he was real fond of. So there's like a whole bit in there of him just like leaning into Kwame Brown and like just trying to fucking break him, like call him a faggot 30 times in a minute. And like, it's all in the book. Like it's all known.
Kwame, dude.
Oh,
your hero. You're the number 1 pick.
You're just like some country 18-year-old. You're like, this is it. I'm in the NBA. Like,
wow, Jordan picked me. He must really believe in me. Calling you a homo for at practice for missing a free throw.
Like the number 1 rule is like you're not allowed to make eye contact with me. Even a poster of me, you have to take it down or like put it in a room that you don't go in a lot. So like all the stories from like in the locker room were like all these like marginal Wizards guys, because they put, when he came back, the owner of the Wiz put him in charge of like basketball operations as well as being the player. Yeah. So it's like the first, he gets there, he plays with these guys, makes very few moves beyond drafting this guy who he immediately ruins forever.
Right.
And then at the end of the season, just fucking trades everybody, where he's like, I can't win with these assholes. Like, so he trades Rip Hamilton for Jerry Stackhouse. Like 2 years later, Rip Hamilton is like
the best,
best, scorer on a championship team.
Generation,
right. So like, but
Jerry Stackhouse hated Jordan.
Of course.
Yeah, but it was all like, so the book, like a lot of it's not like fun about it, like because it's mean. Would be like all these guys getting up the courage to like approach him and be like, hey man, I wore your shoes in middle school, and they'll be like, I'm gonna fucking cut you after this game, Tyronn Nesby. I don't care what you did. I don't care what you did in middle school. Like. There's a lot of stories about him. Yeah. Because it was all the decadence and the sadism, but none of the success.
Right.
So it was like a real weird read from the little bit.
I'm gonna read that. That sounds interesting. And I want to reread that story too. But that's what it would have been cool.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What would have been cool is to have like an OJ like arc. Because that thing was so fucking good.
Yeah.
And it was like, and here's the thing, I kind of honestly, the jumping back and forth was, I don't know, it was a little distracting to me personally, where it's like, just do it fucking chronologically.
Yeah.
We don't give a fuck. You're not saying anything about Jordan that we don't know yet. So just make it an awesome history of his prime, and an episode that's post Last Dance, an episode that's like half Wizards and half what he's doing. I mean, he's a fucking atrocious GM. The motherfucker talks about winning at all costs. The Bobcats suck dick.
And they have everything he's touched since he left the Bulls has failed. Yeah.
Yeah, but he will never speak to Barkley again for like casually mentioning he's a bad executive. You think he's gonna let a 10-part doc fly with that shit in
that's it? That's the real thing with like the OJ comp too, because it's like that's the other big ambitious thing that ESPN did. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't, the guy that was making it wasn't like going to OJ for final approval on the stuff and being like, so there's a lot of crime scene photos in this episode. Are you cool with that, man? Like, I know. Like,
OJ's like, why are you propagating this unfounded theory that I did the murders?
I've been investigating this crime for 25 years. Yeah, like
I would love to do that, and it's like they have to use OJ's real story. You don't hear about him. You're like, yeah. They like gloss over the trial. They're like, and he was found innocent. It just says it in text. Yeah. There's not even a scene from the courtroom.
But there's like a whole episode about like the making of Naked Gun 2.
Yeah. He just talks about how hard it was for him to lose his wife.
Yeah. It was one of the most difficult, getting back out there and dating at my age. People had all kinds of weird ideas about me at the time. But yeah, that would have been that like last episode of the OJ series where like after he gets off, and it's just like him being in Las Vegas and like living like a vampire and trying to like sell some sort of weird TV show where like it basically was like spaghetti. It was like you're doing something and then like OJ Simpson comes out and you're like, oh shit. That was the whole show.
Which I would have watched.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what else? You know what blew me away too is like the footage of young Leonardo DiCaprio looking like such a baby just in there. Like people already don't look cool next to Jordan, but I was like, he walks over, he's like, dude, we were watching The Man in the Iron Mask earlier. Like that you're watching the worst Leonardo DiCaprio film ever to prep.
Yeah, that was like a rare moment of vulnerability from Jordan too. First of all, being starstruck around like a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
But then also he called it the man with the iron face.
Which
is very like you were listening to an MF Doom record. Like I don't know like what like dad brain misfire was happening in there, but
for sure.
Well, DiCaprio was like 80s Jordan at that point. He wasn't like a made man until like his championship is like The Departed. That's like his first championship once Scorsese put him over, you know.
Right. And then he just goes on a run. But honestly, Jordan, the only time you see him sort of be even a little like almost human or like, is like when he's around people that are at his, like the Seinfeld episode was kind of like I thought it was obviously funny, you know, Seinfeld, whatever, but Jordan was kind of relating to him in a way you don't see him relate to most people. You know, he was kind of treating him as an equal.
Totally. He was super solicitous. Same with David Stern, where he was like, say hi to the wife for me, which is like, it's a little weird, but I'm sure that he means like I met your wife and I'm trying to be nice to you.
Right.
But yeah, like he's not. There's like whole guys that played with him for like 5 years that like probably never heard a word from him that wasn't a profanity. Yeah, but like when he's dealing with like somebody at his level, definitely he's like. Right. I mean, I guess that's like how you make hundreds of millions of dollars. Like you pick your spots and.
Yeah.
And but also like everyone's saying he's the greatest shit talker ever. And then every time they cut to the shit talking, it's like, hey, Larry Bird, you're bad at golf. And I guess he was, I guess it hurt out of his mouth. It wasn't like witty.
Yeah. That was, it's definitely like the part where you kind of, I know like this is like where Jordan's sign off was in there. I would have wanted more on that just because like you'd think that he would be proud of it. That's definitely part of his reputation. And you're right. It's like, that's what it is. And then like who is it that he says at the end of episode 10 where he's like dapping up Reggie Miller and he's like, you bitch, fuck you.
No, it was Bird.
Was it Bird?
Yeah.
I was like, wow, bitch. It's like a devastating Bon Mo. Like you served. Like,
by the way, Bird was fucking so cold when Reggie hits the shot. He is not celebrating for a second. Yeah, that guy rules, man. Bird. I didn't realize that was the first season he was coaching. Yeah. Crazy.
Bird's the only like really Hall of Fame level player who were like, oh, this guy could actually coach.
Yeah. And like that wasn't a complete disaster. Like every time he tried to deal with other people.
Right.
Which is
weird. I don't know, man. Isaiah Thomas with the Knicks was pretty good.
Did some great work with the crashing the CBA in 18 months. No, it's a track record.
I do remember when Marbury, every day the fucking Daily News had something about Marbury when Isaiah benched him, and they said, "Do you think he's going to bench you?" And Marbury goes, "I got so much dirt on him, he'll never bench me for long." And you're like, this is a train wreck.
Those teams were that was another, like, them just like bringing in guys that, like, it was like every day James Dolan opened like a pack of basketball cards from 5 years earlier and was like, like, what's Steve Francis doing? Like, is he is still playing? Because that would be interesting. And then like old
where's
T-Mac,
Vin Baker?
Old Zebo, Vin Baker.
Yeah, we're gonna have a happy hour to get Vin in the mix. We're gonna, in his honor, it's gonna be open bar for our signing of Vin Baker.
Gatorade guy just handing him like old paper cup of Hennessy on the bench. He's like, "No, thanks."
Oh man, dude. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I guess you're right. Nobody. I mean, Ewing's now at Georgetown, and I think that's mixed results. I think he's solid, but not great. Mullen tried to coach at St. John's, and he was he already got fired.
That was like that whole other. Those were like those ceremonial like college basketball jobs where like the whole idea of like Mullen there is just basically like St. John's alums remember when that was like a really important program.
Right.
And so in lieu of like, if you can't actually make it an important program again, you just like bring in a guy they like that they can look at during the game
for a couple years, and then it falls apart. Although
Ewing seems like he's doing a little bit better. Like I think he actually like at least recruited well, but I don't know.
I mean, if you were like a New York kid, you're like, I want to fucking play for Patrick Ewing, right? I mean,
I mean, it was the same. St. John's was like that when I was a kid. That was just like where every point guard went. Until like Georgia Tech became like the place where every Brooklyn or Queens point guard went.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, overall though, I mean, I think I don't know, what do you guys think about like the final thoughts on the whole thing? I think overall, very enjoyable, obviously, experience to watch. So many like, you know, it was just like nice to spend time. And obviously it's kind of funny, like this, if you're a Jordan hater and if you're the guy who's going to make the argument that he's not the greatest, this documentary has a lot. It's like this documentary was always going to be super influential, but to drop during a pandemic when there's nothing else going on, it's like getting the last 3 years of a three-peat happen when there's fucking 6 new teams and then the league is completely like watered down because of expansion, and just like there's so many arguments to be made about this, but it's such good luck to have this happen. I mean, as much as the world sucks, for Jordan's brand and legacy, for it to be the only thing happening at all is kind of huge.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't want for this to sound the wrong way, but I think he probably digs that a lot. You know, that like, it just seems like the sort of thing that he would like, there's not enough of anything for him. Like he just wants more of all of it. And so like, this is it. Like he's at the center of the world again. And like, it's weird because I was disappointed at first because of some of the stuff that you were talking about too, in terms of like the way it was made. I didn't mind it jumping around in time, but like if they had spent more time on like the players that he played with, if you're going to spend like, if you're going to go back to like
the conceit is the last dance,
then like do the rest of the team. Like it's not the idea of giving like 10 minutes to Rodman or 10 minutes to Kerr, like however well those are done. It's like, if you really think it's worth it, if you think it's worth 10 minutes and you've got 10 hours of footage, then like, do it, like do more. Right.
But
like for whatever
the staircase is 14 episodes. Give us 14 episodes of fucking MJ.
And like it doesn't have to all be MJ, but pad it out. Like what are Bill Wennington's hobbies? Like I don't necessarily like. I mean, I guess you couldn't have anticipated that there would literally be nothing but the news on other than this.
Right.
But I mean, once I got okay with what the series was, I came around on it. Like, I definitely enjoyed watching the last 2 weeks for sure.
I definitely agree. And I thought the most powerful stuff was 7 and 8 when it's talking about his dad. It's the most he's ever human almost. And then it's like, and also the Scott Burrell episode I thought there's going to be a lot more of that. And that was at least a little illuminating. The thing, me and Sam were talking about this before we started recording, but the one thing that is annoying is how much they were like, never before seen footage. You're never going to believe. And it was like,
that shit
the coolest stuff was in the first episode, the way he treats that like French sound guy. Yeah. That's the most interesting behind the scenes moment. Like the rest of it was just like, it was kind of cool to cut back and forth between their like super high quality film cameras and the shitty.
There weren't a lot of pressing questions, like you were saying. I mean, like when they said to Steve Kerr, "Did you two ever talk about your father?" I was like, "Ooh, that was kind of stuff that I wanted to hear more about." And Kerr was like, "Oh no, I thought it would be too painful," so they never did. But
MJ, the man who punched me because I was getting too many calls in practice. No, I didn't delve into his murdered father.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see how he was going to emotionally respond to that.
Yeah, we really opened up after we fought each other at work. So yeah, like I thought we talk about the biggest trauma of our lives.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
I'm gonna trauma bond with
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
That's like,
But that was cool that MJ seemed happy for him hitting that. Like he genuinely seemed like that was like his dude that he kind of helped put over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, if he misses it, how does he treat him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, no, yeah. He's
And
not
that's the
gonna be
thing.
as
It's
cool.
like with him, it's so. You were saying binary earlier, and it's true. It's like the idea that your entire conception of one man can change on whether they hit. Nothing is different about Steve Kerr, whether he hits that shot or he doesn't. That one single shot. But to Jordan, it meant it was complete. It was everything.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he's a degenerate gambler. A lot is put up to luck.
Yeah,
you know?
you win or you lose.
You're
Yeah,
right.
it's like that's the part that is. I mean, it's like sort of a part of what is. It's not disappointing or whatever, but where like the limitations are in this series. It's true for like any bit of like sports writing or like sports journalism in general. Is that like at some level, like there's just a part of Jordan's brain that he doesn't have access to. That he like, you know, and it hasn't like hurt him. But he's not a guy that's necessarily gonna like. For sure, he's not gonna talk about his fucking dad with Steve Kerr or about like or bond with anyone over anything because like that part of it is like that's a part of the house you don't visit, and then the rest of it is just all about like winning.
And that's so true. I mean, even somebody said he was like his real talent was mindfulness. That guy called him like a guru or something.
Mystic.
A mystic. Yeah.
That was a laugh for me, but it wasn't totally wrong either. I mean,
I think he's right about it. It's like, which is something I can't even consider, like, you know, being so in your fucking head. But you're right. All he thought about was just like winning and what it took and everything else.
Imagine him in therapy. Like
Yeah.
Jordan, Michael, like, but open up. He's just like, fuck, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win therapy. Are you kidding?
Like I mean, he would talk the whole time, but it would definitely be like, you know, about like a time that he was really mad at Will Perdue at like a buffet situation or something like that. It's all just like wherever his mind would go, it only ever is going to go like so far in terms of like who he beat or who he wants to beat.
Sure.
You know, Tony Soprano would make more progress in therapy than MJ, without question.
Yeah, at least like I'm sure he like Tony remembered his dreams, you know. So like credit where it's due there. Like,
yeah, I thought. I mean, overall, obviously, really, really fucking great. And I think the one last thing I just would have liked, obviously, Krause is made to be the fucking big villain, and he's a dumb bitch, obviously, for the way he treated that team and everything. But I do think Reinsdorf got a little, and they kind of went. They circled back to it, but Reinsdorf got treated way too well in this fucking.
Oh my
game.
God, yeah.
Because it's like, ultimately it's his fucking decision.
Yeah, I was glad they went back to that at the end and showed Jordan being like, no, that's stupid and obviously wrong.
Right.
But the idea of like, I mean, Reinsdorf's been cheap about, I mean, both of the sports teams that he owns.
Right.
But the idea that you're just sort of like, well, I'm the owner. I have no control over the GM. Like, it's out of my hands. It's just like on its face, you should be embarrassed to say that shit.
Yeah.
But
so true.
He totally got fucking. He got such a pass, and they clearly made the fucking Krause the villain. And he was in terms of the way he responded to this. Like clearly from the very beginning, he wanted more credit instead of realizing like you're a fucking GM. Even if he didn't say shit, maybe people would like you more. But he was just an annoying fucking guy.
Yeah,
he was a genius. That's the saddest part. Is like the man. Like the way we talk about Masai Ujiri now is like. Krause kind of was doing shit like that, man.
Yeah, I mean, the way to like reload and win that many titles.
Crazy.
Yeah, even Pippen was like, he's one of the best GMs ever. I'm like, yeah, he paid you dog shit. He was smart. He was a smart GM.
Yeah. It's amazing too, because it's like the thing with him, like the quote about Krause was always that like he deserved more credit than he got, but not as much as he thought he deserved.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I think that's probably fair. I think that's probably true of like most people in some way or another.
Right.
But yeah, it was weird to see like him sort of painted as a villain, not because it was wrong, because it wasn't. You're right. It's just like there's something more interesting in there in terms of like how this guy could be so good at his job, at like the hard part of his job, and then suck at the part where you like ride on the bus and don't make everyone uncomfortable. Like that's the part he couldn't do. But he could spot Tony Kukoc and get him in the second round 3 years before he became an all-star. Like this is weird.
Yeah, no, he's another fascinating guy. It's like I mean, obviously the guy's dead, but it's like there really wasn't – all we get about Krause is Reinsdorf remembering that he was a scout, and then he asked him. That's also how he got the job is crazy. He's like, what do you mean? He was a baseball scout that asked you to be GM, and you were like, okay.
Yeah, of the basketball team.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Yeah.
How the fuck? How is there no more? You're going to paint this guy as a villain. We're not going to get more background on this motherfucker? Like, I'm fascinated by him.
That's also real 80s NBA shit, too, that it was just like anyone, like if you could find the owner of an NBA team, you could probably get some sort of front office job if you asked.
Also, you disrespected Phil by saying you can go 82-0 and still not get rehired. And then you offer him the job after he wins the championship. And it's like, Phil's not about to get fucking pitied, you know? And then I also love when MJ said, yeah, we could have put it together. And of course, again, he's like, yeah, we would have had to like move stuff around. Scotty's the one who would have taken some convincing. I'm like, oh, you mean the guy that because of you has been underpaid forever? Like, you can,
for his entire prime. Yeah.
Cut him a check for $5 million.
Yeah. Jordan was getting paid $30 million to Scotty's 3, and that's not even thinking about his endorsements. Like Jordan could have just given him like a French soft drink contract that he had, and it would have been more than Pippen had ever had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, insane.
Although then Pippen got paid. Then
he
got 88 after that.
Yeah.
88,
the Rockets. But he stunk on the fucking Rockets.
Yeah.
But then he was good on the Blazers.
That Blazers team was like, they should have gotten one.
Yeah. Really
they were good enough to get one.
Too. That was
I love them.
Weird, like Stacey Augmon was on that team. That's a lot of like guys I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Actually, honestly, if you had to do a 10-part, well, it wouldn't be 10 parts, but like a Jailblazers thing, like a proper Jailblazers thing, there's probably been a 30 for 30 on it because there's been a 30 for 30 on everything now.
I don't think there has been though. That's a great one. You're right.
And Sacramento, the Kings.
Oh yeah,
that Kings was for sure. Kings are definitely like an era-defining team for sure.
Yeah, that before there's a team that like lost in the Western Conference Finals to the Lakers that probably would have won the title, but when I was in college, like the games that I was watching, I was in California, so it was West Coast games, and the like Jason Williams, Chris Webber, like Lawrence Funderburk Kings, that was like the most appointment viewing basketball team in my life.
They were
like
so
still
kind
of is. Yeah.
So fun. Yeah. You have to trade white chocolate for Bibby. It just makes the team make more sense. But
Bibby was great.
But it was so fun to watch.
Yeah, but Bibby in the playoffs would just not miss. It was kind of insane.
Don't get me wrong. That's what put them over the top. But, like, emotionally, you almost – like, in my mind, before I started, like, the last, like, 3 or 4 years, I got into basketball in a big way. And before that, it's like in my head, he just was on that team that was at the West. You think of Jason Williams when you think of those teams, but he wasn't on the best team because they had to fucking trade him to get the best team.
Yeah,
but he got his chip. In Miami,
by playing normal too. That's all the guys that were on that team was like the funnest point guards of all times, like him and Rafer Alston, just like walking the ball
Payton
up the floor. Yeah, and Gary Payton throwing fucking like just whatever entry passes to Shaq and being like, "Go get him." Just kind of a waste.
And he could shoot threes at that point.
Yeah,
but at the end of his career.
Yeah, at the end of his career, he was a pretty good 3-point shooter.
He was a bad shooter. That was his problem. I mean, honestly, that's what stopped him from being a.
He would pull up and shoot bricks on fast breaks. It was kind of hilarious.
When he had the hair, he would throw like floppy John Paxson haircut, like this guy coming down. It's like he's gonna pull up from the logo just because he's feeling that.
But Miami, that was really your only job, is to just, as you said, dish it to Shaq and just hit the open three.
Yeah. He had a really good career though for a guy. I mean, it's a shame that he didn't get to do like crazy, saucy, weird shit for longer. But whatever. If you saw it, you know about it.
Totally.
He's a big dude now. He's jacked. So is Bibby.
Bibby looks hilarious.
Bibby's unbelievable.
But he's super huge. He looks like he's got like the white girl's facial makeup. It's like all of his features are really bizarre and distended.
Yeah, his face looks totally frozen.
Yep. He's getting a lot of his tattoos taken off. The one that he had like, I think if I'm remembering it right, he had one of those like, it's a cross, but also there's like a basketball is crucified on it.
Hell yeah.
And he's like getting those taken off. Just too bad.
And I think he's like brother-in-law with was Eddie House.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, really?
Another fun dude.
Oh, Eddie House rules. The
7
seconds to son, 7 seconds or less sons. That book about them is fucking great.
Yeah.
Super fun read.
I didn't even know there was a book about them.
Oh, you got to read it. It's a quick read. It's like
send me the link. I'm on.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
It's really fun. Same guy who does the Dream Team. What's his name? I'm fucking blanking.
I don't remember. I know the book too. I don't have.
Yeah, he's also. But apparently, there's a podcast coming with the Dream Team interviews, which is going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's
from that guy.
I barely remember that. I mean, team because I was a kid at the time, but like I
Yo, I
wanted
didn't
more of
remember
those
shit.
practices, like more. Yeah, whatever. The idea of all those
Yeah.
guys just playing against each other and being angry the whole time. Is
Yes,
solid.
yes. So fucking cool.
What did you see the ad for the Quibi series on the Clippers? That looks pretty good. I mean,
no one's gonna see it.
Yeah. It's like you have to watch it in like portrait mode on your phone and pay $20 a month for it. What's the?
Well,
I haven't
they,
seen it.
They did the 30 for 30 on Sterling. That was pretty good on it was audio for ESPN audio.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
I watched. So the Clippers were my team when I was in school, just because like everybody was a Lakers fan and I'm an idiot and a masochist, and they were really, really bad when I was out there. But I remember like they used to be on like the local broadcast and it'd be Bill Walton doing the color commentating. And it was the most avant-garde Walton that I think has ever been. He hated the team. He hated how much they sucked. And so it would be like Pete Chilcutt would go to like shoot free throws and like his stats would come up to be like 3 points and 2 rebounds. And he'd be like, you can see special numbers for Chile, a really vital contributor to this burgeoning Clips team. I would just be like roasting them all game long. The weirdest basketball watching experiences.
I hated Walton so much because he hated the Knicks. And it was always just, he would mock us. I fucking hated Bill Walton.
When he was trolling, he was annoying, and now he's just in this like Crystal Visions, like West Coast basketball games. Yeah, it's just like whatever late night TV.
Totally,
like Art Bell vibes.
Yeah, because it's fun to because it's usually like the last game available at all, because it's like the late game on the West Coast. So it's like sometimes you catch those games coming back from spots, and it's just like just throw it on. Who the fuck knows what Walton is talking about? Whoever they have paired with him is like constantly confused.
Yeah, like trying to like talk about the basketball game, and like Bill Walton's like, is the sun real? For the longest time, people. Those are all super. That's the part that I've noticed that I miss about sports more than like. I mean, it'd be nice to like watch a Mets game, or like go someplace and like sit and have a beer and watch a thing. Yeah. But like it's those weird like late night games just when there's like randomly something on. Totally. Or like the first day of the NCAA tournament where there's like a live basketball game at 1:15 p.m. Like
well said,
it's like the best, dude. And
I miss that West Coast game. I just like Blazers versus Rockets, and you're like, fuck yes, I get to watch Lillard and Harden play. You just miss that.
Catching the second half of the late West Coast game when you're doing stand up and coming home is like you're just fucking rushing. You're like, fuck it, I'll take a cab so I can catch the last half of it.
Right. To watch like Gary Harris.
Yeah. That's honestly, I've re-become a King. Like the Kings I grew up in Baltimore, so I don't have like a natural alliances, I'm sort of a Knicks fan now because, this is my hometown as far as I'm concerned for until I have to leave. But as a kid, those Kings teams were so awesome. Like that's who I fought. And Vlade, of course, is every Eastern European like father is like, yes, it just looks like your dad. He's like, that's a good basketball player.
Just a man who smokes.
Yeah, honestly, yes. And so I because of the late game stuff, I've gotten back into the Kings, and I'm just like big De'Aaron Fox guy. And although I don't really believe in Bagley, but we'll see.
I like watching him because of his length, but yeah, he's still young. I don't know. I wouldn't give up on him yet. I think
like signing Harrison Barnes was crazy. But
yeah, that's like one of those. That's a loser team move, like kind of like a thing that like the Nets would do back in the day, where you find a guy that was like the fourth most important dude on a much better team, and you just assume he's got some like magic motivational powers or whatever.
Right. And you're assuming that's a move to get to 40 wins. It's not a move to get to fucking 50.
He's gotten overpaid twice now, which is good for Harrison Barnes.
Respect,
I mean, the Mavs overpaid him. I think they paid him $96 million, which I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind?
He's got a fucking championship ring and $300 million.
Yeah.
He's living his best life.
Right now, before like Steph's extension kicks in, he might have made more money than Steph.
He probably has, dude. Yeah. This is what's so good about the NBA is when you see guys like that like mysteriously like Larry Hughes is like the 15th richest American.
God damn, I miss basketball.
All these guys have touched a Knicks jersey at some point, which is even funnier.
Anybody, once you've made $100 million for other teams, you get to make like 60 more.
Brutal.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Go ahead. You have something else?
I was gonna say they did like a thing where like on the Knicks Instagram the other day where it was like, do you prefer like the '90s uniform like our statement uniforms now, and it's like, do you think I'm going to choose the one that LJ and Ewing are wearing, or the one that Julius Randle's bricking fucking free throwing? Like, which...
I like the one with no fond associations because I'm a big fan of the color orange. Yeah, it's like,
oh, I want the ones that remind me of my divorce and mortality. Fuck. Well, dude, thanks for doing the show. We'll definitely, if you're down, we'd love to have you back on. I think
for sure.
Once the MJ stuff dies down, I think we're gonna do like an exhaustive, like team by team, like get a fan. And I feels like you got to be the Nets guy, man. It feels like we got to have you on to talk.
It would be my
Nets
honor.
Specific.
If I have to carry this shit around in my head all the time, I might as well share it with people that want to hear it. But yeah, thanks for having me, man. This was fun.
Of course, man. Appreciate it. And do you have anything you want people to check out? Anything to plug or anything like that?
Nothing too much. Like, freelance things here and there, but nothing I really need to push.
Cool. So whenever you see David's shit, man, fucking read his stuff. It fucking rules. And we'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks again.
Yeah, man. Thanks very much. Have a good one, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye.
That's our show, baby boys and baby girls. David was fucking great.
Great.
He's seriously, he's such a good fucking writer. He does some like political stuff, and it's like, as annoying as it is to read about, Trump and shit, he's got some of the best like actual human being takes on it. He's a fucking great writer. And he's written some stuff about Drazen, actually. He wrote a couple good pieces about Petrovic. And
I love Drazen, man. That guy, like, One's Brother is my favorite. 30 for 30. Just brutal.
So good.
Incredible.
It's incredible. But that's it. We'll probably talk more Last Dance and stuff. And
leave us a review, too. Rate us, review us, subscribe, get on that shit. And tell your friends, man. I feel like we've weirdly found our stride in the last few weeks,
Yeah, for sure. It's been really fun to do these fucking apps. So,
and Twitch, dude, we gotta tease the people on Twitch.
We got something coming for you assholes. We're gonna start playing 2K against each other on Twitch. It's gonna fucking rock. I think we're gonna
drafting teams. If you take Oubre, dude, it's gonna hurt our friendship. That's my man. Kelly Oubs.
I have a list of people I'm gonna force you to trade me future number ones for. I'm gonna draft Oubre. I'm gonna be like, Sam, I want 2 firsts.
Done.
I want 2 firsts and a big swap for Kelly Oubre. But we're gonna start fucking streaming on Twitch and our YouTube channel. So thanks for listening. Throw us a review, and we're back Friday with our bonus on Patreon, and then obviously we're back Tuesday with that week's free episode. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Cool.